BYL Nation, it's playoff time. Single elimination, do or die, win or go home. Yes, the road to another championship starts here today, Sunday, February 27th. So what we're going to do here for about the next half hour is we're going to break down the playoff brackets for both our elite and our legacy divisions. For those who don't know, I'm Taylor Pettiford, BYL Commissioner, and I will not only be breaking down each one of today's matchups, but also giving some projections. So whether those projections are going to serve as fuel to some team's fire, or whether I'm going to jinx a team, so be it. I got dragged a little bit last season because my projections were far off. Probably going to be the same story this year, but I will break down these matchups for you. And before we even get into that, though, we've got some league updates that we want to cover. So we're going to bounce out of our preview real quick. And we're going to go to some updates that are coming for our spring session, which is right around the corner. More on registration in just a bit. But when you take a look here, for our spring session here, the first slew of updates is specific to the Elite League. So we're changing the paths to the league. Really, the goal here for why we're making this change is that we want there to be a little bit more of a distinction between the elite and the legacy divisions. We value both divisions. Both divisions are riddled with great and high-level players, but elite was created with the intention of being a place exclusive for players of a collegiate and professional caliber. Right. So this season, specifically winter session, if you take a look at the top 10 players in legacy and maybe the bottom 10 players in elite, it's not really much of a distinction there. One could make the argument that the legacy players, the top 10 over there, are actually better. So we're going to switch things up here, and there's now 3 paths to the lead to the elite division. So path number 1 is a captain's invite. So if a captain specifically invites you, or basically says, with one of my 7 picks, I will definitely select you in the draft, then you're in. So each captain's going to have a limited or a specific number of invites to dole out. And if you get a captain's invite, you're in the draft. Path number 2, similar to what it's been, right, in the past, is earn your spot, right? So if you don't get a captain's invite, essentially guaranteeing your spot, you can come out on our preseason combine and show out, right? And we'll be making some changes to the combine. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but you'll come out and earn your spot from one of those runs. So we're going to ask our captains to be more engaged this upcoming session, to actually show up on those for that preseason combine, evaluate talent, and you can earn your spot in the draft that way as well if you don't have a captain to vouch for you. Path number 3 is a brand new one. So this is going to be, we're calling it right now, 2-way contracts, trying to just emulate the league a little bit. But when we think about a 2-way contract, this is going to be for players who maybe they enter, maybe they don't even get a chance to enter the elite draft. They don't get picked up. If elite captains are interested enough, they can still draft their rights, meaning that this is a player who will predominantly play in the legacy division with a chance to get called up to elite should the need present itself. So if there's an injury or if teams are short on a specific night, they'll be able to make that call up from a legacy player. So it'll only be select. You still have to qualify for one of these roles. You can't just, hey, I want to be a 2-way contract player. The elite captains still do need to have that interest in signing you to that 2-way contract, but that's another path to the league. You come up, you get the call up, you play well enough, then you could stick around. So those are our 3 new paths: captain's invite, earn your spot at the preseason combine, or get a 2-way contract and essentially play your way in. Now, when we talk about that preseason combine, we're going to switch up the format. For those who have come in the past, it's a lot to manage. We got a lot of new players, returning players, all showing up. We're really going to make it predominantly exclusive to new players who have not participated before, or players who captains specifically say they need another chance at evaluating, didn't get enough of a look at them in seasons past. So it'll be a more focused group that's there for the combine. And instead of just everybody show up and we try to figure out who's who and play some sloppy pickup. What we're going to do is we're actually going to have drills for the first 45 minutes or so. And I want to make it sound like it's a practice. We still know that this is a men's, it's a recreational league. But what we're going to do is think not cone drills, but think more along the lines of individual shooting contests, right? Maybe a 3-point contest, maybe team contests, see who can hit the most threes in a given amount of time. Think king of the court, right? Some opportunities for captains to evaluate your skill set in a more individualized setting. And then once they've taken the time to do that, then captains are going to select teams from those attendees, and we'll have essentially a little mini pickup tournament. So that's the new format there for evaluation. That's going to be across both leagues. Might be some additional changes on top of that to come, but that's what we've got for now. New paths to the league, new combine format. But now let's get into these playoffs, because we know that that's what you guys came here for. So again, playoff preview here, and we're going to start off with the elite division. Right? So taking a look at the elite division, our bracket is as follows. Our 1 seed is DDRWAY, led by Captain Arinze Obiora. Our 2 seed, feels like this is like the 3rd session in a row that they've been the 2 seed, but this is MOBAR Elite. Formerly, actually I forget what their name was in the past, but this is Coco Fernandez's team. In 3rd place is BALLISTIC. Jude Valmuse's team, been to the championship 2 seasons in a row, lost 2 seasons in a row. 4th place is Tommy Hubbard's Goonies. 5th place, AJ Tavares's Whalers. 6th place is the MAMBAS, which is Savon Houston's team, an expansion team added this season. 7th place is Buckets Galore, our reigning champions. They've had a tough go of it, but we'll see if they can work some magic. And then 8th place is DBBC. So starting off with the 1v8 matchup, we've got DDRWAY 6-1. And number 8 DBBC, who I want to say is 2-5. So this should be an easy one to break down, right? The number 1 seed, they're not going to lose this. We haven't had a 1-8 upset in our playoffs yet. Could this be the first time? It could be. I'm going to say let's not count DBBC out just yet. They've had a rough go of it early on in the season. There was a rift between George Guyton and Carlos Andre. He was shipped out and traded for that man number 23 that you see there, Hendel Laurel. A little bit of a slow start with DBBC, but especially if you took a look at this team in the way that they played last week, they can be scary. And when they weren't even at full strength, they still only lost by 8 to DDRWAY. Now, a big part of that, in addition to Hendel Laurel and Captain George Guyton, is the man that we see over there, 26, Wilson Pilardi. So Wilson was an addition just about halfway through the season. George's 1st round pick did not pan out. Never showed up, hurt them the first few weeks. Wilson stepped in. Took him a couple weeks to get going, but he was firing on all cylinders last week, hit a number of tray balls. He's a good defender, good rebounder. He's a pro, right? So you add that trio to high IQ players like Luke Burke, like Leo Medina, Mark Georges has been a surprise at times this season for them. DBBC can play. Do I have them beating DDRWAY? I don't, right? I'm going to still take DDRWAY here. They've been the most consistent team in Elite this session, especially if everybody shows up. You've got Mitri Lambright, you've got Captain Arinze Obiora, you've got Gabon Williams over there. Those are the 3 pictured. Those 3 are horses. But then you've got other players who don't mind just getting in there and doing the dirty work, and they're a big team. You got players like Kennedy Asari, you got A.B. Akani, right? You got high IQ and hardworking guys with a motor. I just think that they're too big. I think that they're going to dominate the glass. And if they can get any of their guards going, I mean, they've got Brandon Williams too, who's missed quite a few games. But if they've got their full assemblement of talent, then I've got DDRWAY advancing, right, in that 1v8 matchup. So who might they be taking on then in the semifinals? So that's going to be decided by a matchup that we actually saw last week in week 7, which was number 4 Goonies versus number 5 Whalers. So Goonies actually came out on top. Goonies are another team that have been riddled with injuries this season and just players not showing up and panning out. They were supposed to have a backcourt that included Jonathan Duvivier and Terrence Favors. Neither one of those guys are finishing the season. I think both of them actually due to injury. So Tommy Hubbard was left to picked up Hector Heredia in place. He got Fawaz Mass via trade, and add those guys in with pieces like a Phil Garreau. And yeah, this is a team that could be dangerous. Another player who's really stepping up for them. We don't have a BYL picture of him up here, but is Tyshawn Moore, Ty Boogie. Right, he's dropped 20 plus points a number of times now in recent weeks, just adding another weapon. So they're guard heavy, but this is a really tough team, and the Whalers struggled with them last week, and that's why they came up with a loss. On the Whalers side of things, AJ Tavares, he's turned it up of late. Had a slow start to the season, especially after his fall all league campaign. Same with Asante Sandiford. He's our reigning MVP. We're definitely not seeing the same caliber of play. I don't think that this offense is as conducive as the Shockers was for him in the fall. It's not as up tempo, but still, those are, there's 2 guys right there that can go for 25. And then I think the big gap for them last week, or big absence, I should say, was the big man, Zach Turcotte. I don't believe that he was in attendance or played last week, which that definitely can sway things in Goonies' favor. If he's there tomorrow, I'm going to give Whalers the benefit of the doubt that they're going to pull this one out when everybody shows up, and after they've moved past some chemistry issues. They're probably a top 3 team in this league when they're firing on all cylinders. I'm going to guess that with AJ Tavares, Asante Sandiford, and Zach Turcotte, if he's there. And Turcotte, for those who don't know, is a 6'8" big man who's played at UMass, really polished and fundamental big. You add those 3 out there, I think that's just going to be too tall of an order for Goonies, but let's see. Maybe this is fuel for their fire and they're going to prove me wrong. Mass and Hubbard did that just last season. I picked the Buckets Galore in the fall to be out first round. They went on to win a championship, and Hubbard and Mass were both on that team. So I probably shouldn't be picking against them here in a rematch against the Whalers, a team that they beat last season. But I'm going to go with AJ and Asante on this one to pull out a hard-fought victory against Goonies. So moving over to the other side of the bracket, we've got MOBAR Elite, who's 5-2 on the season, versus Buckets Galore, the reigning champions. We'll just put it this way: I don't foresee a repeat in Buckets Galore's future. Love Jimmy Fritzen, probably one of my favorite players to watch in either of the 2 leagues. He sees the BYL's version of Kyrie. Rudy Jean is a talented lefty that they've picked up this season. Yemi Ajayo was clutch all playoffs, and then they've got Jules Tavares. They've got some pieces over there, but they just have not gelled. They did eke out a win last week in the play-in over Koba. I probably would have picked Koba to win that one. So there's Buckets Galore yet again, proving me wrong. But I don't think tomorrow's going to be the same story. The major reason is that guy in the middle over there in MOBAR. Spencer Braithwaite has been the best player in the elite division this season. I don't think it's any secret to those who have been following the league. He's the front runner for MVP. He's probably the only guard who's you can say pretty safely is better than Jimmy Fritzen. Maybe that's motivation for Jimmy heading into tomorrow's game, but Spence is just he's different, and he's a true floor general. He can go and get you 30, or he can go and get you 10 plus assists, or he can go and get you both. And, now add a piece like Matthew Ochang, who's one of the better big men in the league by his side. Coco's been shooting it well this season, and then they've got other guys who just don't mind going out there and doing the dirty work. I'm not going to say that MOBAR's not flawed. I think last week showed how flawed they are, because literally the only two players on the team that scored in a victory, albeit, but the only two players that scored in a victory were Spencer and Matthew. I don't think you're going to win in the playoffs. If that's the case, somebody else is going to have to step up. We're not sure what the status is with Carlos Andrade, who should be that secondary ball handler and secondary scorer for them, but he's been out of action for weeks now. But they'll need somebody to step up. Maybe it's JT Strickland, or maybe it's Viandi Maresma. But I don't think that they'll see a problem in tomorrow's quarterfinals or today's quarterfinals. I think that Spence is going to lead them to victory, and they'll be heading on to the semifinals. As far as who they'll play, it's going to be the winner of Ballistic versus Mambas. Ballistic, the number 3 seed, they're 4-3 on the season. Mambas started off hot, but ended up slipping. They're 3-4. When we think about Ballistic, one of the longest teams in the league. I mean, they feature 6'5" Dante Law, 6'5" or 6'6" Terrell Williams, 6'6" Amadeus Pyres, and now they've got 6'7" Fabio Gonzalez. So they're a very, very tall team, but what they lack is a true floor general. They've had chemistry issues with Esco. Carlos Glean had a great game last week. I think he's a bit more of a scoring guard than we would consider him a floor general like a Spencer, but they don't move the ball very well, and their offense struggles because of that. So that's their major flaw. As far as Mambas, who they'll be going up against tomorrow, it's an interesting matchup, because Mambas, don't let the picture fool you. It's not all just Kwame Lee, although he is a very talented and 6'9" big man for them. But they've also got Savon Houston, 6'7", 6'8" big man, the Twin Towers over there. They got Chris Green, who's a great shooter, Kanai Knight, who's a talented point guard, and I think that they could really spell trouble for Ballistic. I think, especially when it comes to playoff matchups, I tend to give the nod to teams who have the better guard play, and I actually think in this one that is Mambas. But Ballistic's been a consistent presence in the championship in this league. Whether they get there again this season, I'm not sure. But I do think that Dante and Terrell and Amadeus, that athleticism in the way that they can get up and down the court, I think that that's going to be a little bit too much for Mambas. It'll be a hard-fought game, and they're going to have their hands full containing Kwame and Savon in the post. But ultimately, I think that that Ballistic will be just a little bit too high flying and fast paced up tempo for the Mambas, who have struggled with teams like that because they don't always get back on defense. So my pick for that game is Ballistic. I'm going to only go officially as far as that because I could be wrong on all 4 of these. Really, these are going to be some tightly contested games. We anticipate, as long as everybody who's supposed to show up shows up. But if this was the way that it panned out, my predictions for the semifinals would be DDRWAY advancing over Whalers and MOBAR advancing over Ballistic, and in a championship with MOBAR and DDRWAY. MOBAR has they've not lived up to my projections in the past. I think this would be the season where they finally do follow through, because I have that much confidence in Spencer Braithwaite's ability to control the tempo of a game. And I just think that in any game, he's going to be the best player on the court. So as long as they can just have anybody other than Ochang step up for them in those big matchups, then I'm going to ride with Spence as far as my predictions. Now, please don't go out there and lose in the first round and make me look like a dummy out here, MOBAR. But those are my predictions for Elite. We're going to see how those games play out in just a few hours. Moving forward, we'll switch gears over to Legacy. So Legacy, breaking down the teams, we've got in the 1 seed, our undefeated, our only regular season undefeated team, Flight School, led by Captain Ali Tran. The number 2 seed is our reigning champions, Cash Money. They are 5-2 on the season. The 3 seed is Showstoppers. They're also 5-2, but they lost to Cash Money in week 1, so therefore they lost the tiebreaker there. 4th seed is SUBZERO, led by Micah Duarte. 5th seed is LCA, led by Captain Jalen Jones. 6th seed is Mustangs, led by Kenny Seitz as their captain. 7th seed Team Impact, first-time captain Jake Tulloch. And 8th seed, also first-time captain Gino Golston. So that's our lineup. Let's start with that 1-8 matchup. So Flight School versus Rebels. Again, this is another one that on paper, it should be an easy dub for Flight School, especially considering they've rattled off 7 wins in the regular season. But I'm going to throw this out there. These 2 teams played earlier in the season. It was only an 8-point margin between them, and really it was close all the way down till the end. The Rebels have, in my opinion, they have the most prolific backcourt in the Legacy division. Josh Santos was, quite frankly, he was angry that he went 4th round this season, and he's been playing that way all session. He's had an all-league session. I mean, he's got to be. Unfortunately, he plays a lot on courts where the cameras don't work, so we don't have all his stats. But he's had more 30-point performances than anybody this season. Easily has the scoring title. He's been hitting from all over the court, and he's letting you know about it as well. That's one thing you can count on Josh for. But the person that not a lot of people give credit to is his counterpart in the backcourt, and not Captain Gino Golston, who's more of just the floor general, but Gino Golston's brother, Hugh Coleman. Hugh Coleman actually is probably the better shooter of the 2, especially statistically. But with those 2 on the wings, the way that they can fill it up, that's an 8 seed that nobody would want to face in the opening round. Now, for them, their Achilles heel this season has been the inconsistency of their front court. So Charles Cook, which is I want to say their 1st round pick, he's pictured there, number 14 in black. He's only played about 2 or so games. That's been pretty standard for him. Busy guy, and 100% understand that he has a life outside of basketball and outside of the BYL, but just doesn't show up a whole lot. When he does show up, he makes his impact because he's about 6'4", 6'5", and he plays really physically down low. So he's a good shot blocker. He's a good rebounder and somebody that they'll need tomorrow. So hopefully he's going to be there. And then Stephen Lucien is a pretty consistent big man as well. He can step out and even hit the 3. He's a good rebounder. He's usually the guy who's in the best shape on the court as well. So if Lucien and Cook can if they can dominate the paint, and then Santos and Hugh Coleman are going off, this team has a shot, but they need a lot of things to go right for them in order to beat Flight School. You think about Flight School, you've got Ali Tran and Michael Luan in the backcourt. Then you've got Anthony Domenico and Evan Bean in the front court. Matchup nightmares all around, right? Now you throw in a shooter like Aaron Anderson with them. You bring Bipin Tamang off the bench. You bring Nino Martins off the bench. I mean, this team is just loaded. They're truly 7 players deep. They didn't have Bean or Anderson last week, and they took out Cash Money, right? They came back from double digits down to take out Cash Money in overtime. And so, it's Rebels has a shot, but again, they need to play just about a perfect game to knock Flight School out, and Flight School is going to be my pick to win this one. Now they're going to face the winner of the 4-5 matchup, which is SUBZERO versus LCA. SUBZERO has been a bit more consistent of a team. They're 4-3, but their loss last week essentially came right in the final minute or so. So one bounce goes differently, or if they if they don't start off the game down 18 to 3, then they could be entering this thing 5-2, and they might not even be in this game. They would be the 3 seed. But they've been a little bit more consistent, but still it's been an up and down season for Sub-Zero. They had 2 really bad losses right in the middle of things, and they've lost to Showstoppers twice. So they're flawed, and quite frankly, I think this is a really bad matchup for them going up against LCA. I'll go back to Sub-Zero for a second, right? Their strengths are really, they've got Jerome Overstreet, who's one of the most talented big men in the league, 6'4", and a very sturdy 6'4". And Cam Moniz has been a very pleasant surprise. He's borderline all league this session. He's had a number of 20+ point performances. He's great in the mid-range. He can step out and hit the 3. Fantastic athlete, can finish at the rim. So he's solid. They got a up and down player, Adam Silver, who is a threat from beyond the arc, has shown glimpses of being the first round selection that he was, but really hasn't played up to that to that level all season. And then you got Captain Michael Duarte, who's Swiss Army knife, can do a little bit of everything for them. So they're a good team, and this is not going to be a blowout one way or another, but they struggle with teams that can spread you out and have really strong guard play. You saw that last week when they went up against Showstoppers, who just about always have 4 guards on the court at a time. LCA, I would say, maybe they don't have as many guards to go around, or as many dangerous guards as Showstoppers do, but you'd be hard pressed to find a trio that's more dangerous than Jamal Murray, Kamal Aileen, and then Isaiah Curry, who really plays more of the 4 for them. But those 3, I mean, that's going to be, not only are they skilled and talented, all 3 of them can shoot, but they're great athletes as well. And Sub-Zero is probably an average athletic team. Jamal Murray, fast as can be. Kamal Aileen might be the fastest player from one end to the other in the league. And then Isaiah Curry, he was the summer MVP for a reason, a really high IQ player who can keep that ball moving and then go score and get his when need be. And then you've always got a player like Jalen Jones who can step out and shoot the 3. He's the captain. So this is a team that they've had their struggles. They're definitely flawed. They're 3 and 4 for a reason, but they have those advantages over Sub-Zero, and it's just going to require either Adam Silver or Jerome Overstreet, or both of them, to be playing away from the hoop a lot more than Captain Michael Duarte would like them to. So I'm giving the edge in this matchup. And then the other thing that I'll call out is, hands down, the best player in the game is Jamal Murray, right? So we're going to give LCA the nod here to move on to the semifinals. Moving over to the other side of the bracket, Cash Money versus Team Impact. So this is another rematch. I want to say that this game took place in week 2 of the season. No, it was week 3. And it was an 11-point victory for Cash Money. I think the biggest thing to call out here is that Cash Money held Impact to 31 points. Now, Impact held them to 42 points. Impact's a really good defensive team, but I just don't know that they have a guard play that's going to be necessary in order to break down Cash Money's defense, because Cash Money is the best defensive team in the league. They're big. They've got Ryan McAndrew as their captain. They've got Jamal Carlson as their power forward. They've got Chuck Orasakwe, who's 6'3". They've got Marquise Weaver, who's another 6'3" guy. I mean, their entire starting lineup just about is over 6 feet. And they play a really physical brand of basketball. They're the best defensive team and the best rebounding team in the league. Now, Impact, when they're healthy, if you look at those 3 guys over there, I mean, you're not going to bully Guy Desasaurus, right? And then June Brockington is every bit of the athlete that any of those guys on Cash Money are, but June hasn't really been showing up. And then Wally Callum, he's got more length than just about anybody over on Cash Money's side. But again, in order to beat Cash Money, you really need guards who can push the tempo, who can dissect the offense, and who can get things going off the dribble. And Impact doesn't have that. Add that to the fact that we don't know where June Brockington is. We don't know if he's going to show up. And so this one is cash money moving on. Probably the easiest pick of the first round for me to make, respectfully, to Team Impact. Last matchup here is Showstoppers versus Mustangs. And this is really a battle of opposites, because with, and I forgot to change the header here, it's just not Cash Money versus Impact, it's just Showstoppers versus the 3 seed Showstoppers versus 6 seed Mustangs. But when we think about Showstoppers, as I said earlier, this is a team filled with guards. You've got Jordan Dauphin and you've got Phil LaFond, who are the primary guards, but then you've got Phil's brother, Philbert LaFond. You've got Ben St. Felix on the team. And that's really their best lineup, right? Is when you throw those 4 guys out there with a Jonathan Etienne or with an Alan Abuna. And they spread you out. They got a number of guys out there. Just about every one of those guys can shoot. And they can get up and down, and they get into you on defense. And we saw last week Mustangs, how they fared against teams who can get up and down when they played LCA, and LCA got up on them pretty early and beat them by just about 20 points. Mustangs really thrives when they slow the game down and they play in the half court, because they got that guy in the middle, Corey Matthews, who might just have been the best player pound for pound in the Legacy division this season. 6'5" collegiate pedigree. He's got the moves, soft touch around the rim. You add him to a front line of Kenny Seitz and Gerald Henderson, and they're formidable down low. I mean, they're a load to deal with on the glass, along with a team like Cash Money, one of the better rebounding teams out there. But that essentially puts 3 power forwards in your lineup there. And then you've got Jeff Moore, who's a great player, but not the fastest guard. And you pair him with a really good athlete in Nate Davila, but it leaves you with Nate Davila as really the only above average athlete at this point in time. And I don't say that disrespectfully to any of the players over there. They're great ball players, but as far as just being an athlete, I would say Nate Davila is the only one who at this point in his career, or at this point right now in his stamina, how do I say this and go around this delicately, he's the only guy who's going to be able to keep pace with Phil LaFond and Jordan Dauphin and Ben St. Felix going up and down. I mean, they can get Ian Hare in there. He's a pretty solid defender. And Andrew Valley is a pretty good athlete as well, but I just give advantage athleticism and an up tempo here for Showstoppers. But if Showstoppers messes around and lets Mustangs keep this a half court game, Mustangs can run them out of the gym, because there's nothing that they're going to be able to do. They've defended other big men well, have Showstoppers, but there's no big man who has the footwork and the soft touch around the rim that Corey Matthews has. So if they don't put a body on him, and if they let that team get rolling and let Matthews get rolling, he could take over that game. He could give you a 30-20 ball, and he could have Mustangs advancing on to the semifinals and leave an egg on my face. But I'm going to go Showstoppers in this one to get to the semifinals. Again, my official predictions will end there. If things do pan out this way, though, I'm going to rock with Flight again, even though LCA played them hard earlier in the season. I think that they're too deep. And I think that, especially when you consider Domenico and Bean, there's no answer for that when it comes to when LCA plays against them. So I would have Flight advancing to the championship, and I'd have Cash Money going back again. Showstoppers will play them tougher than they did in week 1, but I still think that their physicality and their ability to dominate the boards over Showstoppers would have Cash Money right back there in a rematch of last week's overtime thriller. I think if Flight is full strength, which they weren't last week, I see them completing the perfect season and going 10-0. But let's see how it shakes out. Excited again. The playoffs will start as you'll see here 7:30 tonight. So if you're playing, obviously check the site or check in with your captain. Make sure you know what time game's at. And then if you're not, if you're on the sidelines this season, pull up. At 7:30, there's no price for admission. It's free. Football's over. So what else are you going to be doing on a Sunday night, right? Pull up to the Dana Barros Basketball Club in Stoughton, Massachusetts. 7:30. We will have 4 courts running for the 7:30 hour and the 8:30 hour. Fantastic basketball, and you're going to see some high stakes and high intensity basketball played because, like I said, it's single elimination, do or die, win or go home. All right. Now, the good news here is that if you do go home, right, or if you've been stuck on the sidelines this session, spring registration is now open. So spring session is going to begin on March 27th. So there's going to be a quick turnaround time between winter and spring. That's to make sure that we've got enough time to end the season before Memorial Day so that we can ramp up for what's going to be a loaded summer session with a lot of hoopers home for the summer. So right on Instagram, go to the bio, or you can go to buildsports.com/leagues and sign up. There's plenty of space available right now. Both leagues are probably at about 50% capacity, but that's not going to last. Especially as we start to really promote this and market this. We've sold out every single session. We've had a waiting list every single session. So there's no need to delay. Don't wait around seeing if your friends are going to join or not. Sign up and come play. Spring registration now open. We begin March 27th. That's it. Again, I'm your commissioner, Taylor Pettiford. This is the BYL Hoops Playoffs Preview. We hope to catch you there tonight.